Hi, everyone, and welcome to Katie Couric. Sophia Loren once said, "Beauty is how you feel inside." My guest today says only 2% of women describe themselves as beautiful. Katherine Schwarzenegger is the daughter of California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger and Maria Shriver. Her new book is called Rock What You've Got, Secrets to Loving Your Inner and Outer Beauty from Someone Who's Been There and Back. And Katherine has just been named a youth ambassador for Dove's Movement for Self-Esteem, and they happen to be the sponsor of this web show. So thank you, Dove, and welcome, Katherine. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, too.
So first of all, I'm so impressed that you did this. You're only 20 years old. You're still in college.
Yes.
And you decided to write an entire book about sort of girls' self-esteem and body image. How did this come about?
Well, my initial interest in body image started when I did an internship at Dove, when they kind of were first starting their campaign for Real Beauty. And I was really interested in all of those statistics, like you just said, a statistic that I learned when I was there that shocked me.
2% of women consider themselves beautiful.
Which is like so depressing. And so that was kind of my initial interest in it. And I took a class when I first started college about the effects that media have on women, especially young girls in today's society. And I was so shocked by that and how much pressure young girls feel to look, quote, perfect all day long. And
right.
I think that, girls feel so much pressure to be thin and to look like that they just came off of the cover of a magazine, and they can't really be themselves. And so I kind of wanted to write this book as a reference kind of for girls that, you can be yourself, be true to who you are, and that it's important to not feel so much pressure from the media and not succumb to all of that and try to be someone that you're not.
And kind of understand sort of the media coverage, understand that so many of these people look actually sickly in real life, who look good in magazines, and not to mention the fact that many of them are airbrushed.
Yeah, so photoshopped. And I think that a lot of girls actually surprisingly don't know anything about that. And so when I talk about that in the book, and even when I talk about it to my younger girl cousins or just younger girls that I know in general, they're like, oh, really? That's really photoshopped? And so many of us know about little airbrushing to airbrush out, like a pimple or a bruise or something like that, but nobody knows the extreme airbrushing that goes on today. You can make a totally different person out of it.
You talked about statistics, Katherine, and here's some more shocking ones. I found this one really disturbing. And, I've done through the years a lot of stories and a lot of interviews about body image and eating disorders, but one study says nearly half of 3 to 6-year-old girls are participants, and I'm assuming they were girls, fretted about being fat.
Yeah.
I mean, here's another one. 68% of women strongly agree the media and advertising set an unrealistic standard of beauty that most women cannot ever achieve. But, they still have to deal with it on a daily basis in newsstands, advertisements, etc. 1 in 4 college women have an eating disorder.
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite depressing, and it seems to me these numbers have not changed, and if anything, they're getting worse.
Yeah, no, they're definitely getting worse, and that's why I think that this message that I'm trying to get out to young girls about, not falling into that category and, not feeling so much pressure from the media is really important. And, I'm a really big believer in all of this because I think that if we don't start paying attention to this issue, it's going to get younger and younger. I mean, it's already, 3 to 6-year-olds? It's ridiculous. And, I know that when I was 3 and 6, that was the last thing on my mind. And the fact that that's how young girls are and they're thinking about their bodies that way, it's insane.
And I know that if you weren't thinking about it maybe at that age, but you've had your own issues with self-esteem, with body image, with weight, worried about your weight, obsessed about your weight. It's hard to find a woman, quite frankly, who hasn't in this country, sadly. And we really have to very conscientiously fight against sort of this pressure and this tide of people telling us what we should look like.
Yeah.
But tell us a little bit about some of the things you struggled with and how you ultimately came to terms with them.
Well, I think that I went through, the normal times of feeling self-conscious about my body and feeling weird in my new body is when you become a woman.
Right, when you start reaching puberty.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's something that every girl goes through at some point in their life. And, I just was so confused when I was, in high school about, all of a sudden I was getting hips and a butt and boobs and, this was like totally new to me. And so I didn't think that I guess I didn't handle that very well, the whole new body thing. And
You
so,
felt more like you were getting fat?
Yeah,
and
exactly. Well, I just
not
thought
that
that
you were going through puberty?
No, I just thought that I was changing, and I thought that I was like the only one that was going through this, and obviously I wasn't. But I compared myself to other girls in my grade, which made me think that, oh my God, I'm the only one who's, getting hips, and who's the only one who's getting a butt and boobs and stuff like that. So I thought it was only
just
happening
getting
to
curvy,
me. Yeah,
right?
exactly. And I thought I was the only one, which made me really self-conscious. And so, what I really want with this book is that it's kind of a message to young girls saying you're not alone when you're going through all of this, because every other girl is going through the exact same thing, and
But
they have gone through it.
or maybe they already have, and maybe
At
they
different times,
haven't
exactly.
yet.
Yeah.
And so you can't really compare
Exactly.
what your body's doing with all of your friends, because
Exactly.
everybody's maturing at a different
Yeah.
level.
Yeah. And so I was really self-conscious at that time, and confused as to what was happening and everything like that. And so I was, didn't feel great about my body at the time. And I think in 4th grade, which is how I kind of start the book, was the first time that I realized that my body was different from other girls' bodies, and that every girl's body is different. And that was the first time that I kind of became aware, she's thinner and she's bigger than that, So it was the first time that I really compared people's bodies to each other.
And how did you feel when you were doing that?
It freaked me out.
Yeah.
I start the book as kind of, I said, I hate myself, I feel fat, I feel ugly, and that was really how I felt, because I was so confused. I felt like everybody was so much prettier than I was, everybody was so much smarter, and I just didn't feel great about myself at all. And that's when my mom had me do that exercise of, dividing up a piece of paper and writing the likes and don't likes, and you really see in that exercise how many likes you have compared to the don't like.
Explain what that was, Catherine, and what your mom did, and because for people who haven't read the book yet,
Yeah.
or won't necessarily have a chance to, what was that?
Well, I just felt so awful about my body when I was that one time in 4th grade.
You were 9 years old, right?
Yeah, or 10, I think.
10?
Yeah, and I just was not feeling great. And my mom told me, you're wrong, Catherine. You're beautiful. You're smart. You're intelligent. You're great at sports and everything. You have tons of friends. And I was like, Mom, you just have to say that because you're my mom.
Yeah, I've heard that from my daughters
exactly.
too. They don't trust when your own mom says things because they have the same reaction.
Yeah, you feel you have to be obligated to say that as a mother to build your child up and make them feel good about themselves. But so my mom was like, okay, fine. Well, if you don't think that you feel great about yourself, let's do an exercise. So she took a piece of paper and she drew a line down it and told me to write things that I like in the left side and things I don't like about myself in the right side. And so I sat there and I did it. And then by the end of the exercise, I really realized that the likes column was so much longer than the dislikes column. And, I think that us as women, we tend to focus only on the negative things about ourselves instead of the positive. And I think doing an exercise like that really opens your eyes to all the positive things that you have that you don't always think about.
Now that was one step, but there were obviously, it's like a little devil on your shoulders. This negative body image that we all are saddled with.
Yeah.
I think even supermodels say they look in the mirror and they don't like what they see. They only look at, they pay attention to what might not be perfect. I mean, it's really sick when you think about it.
Yeah.
But how else have you gotten through it, Catherine? Because I'm sure that was a great start, and I'm so happy your mom did that. But I'm sure that this was something that you struggled with as you got older, as you said, when you went through puberty and at other times. Did you ever yourself have an eating disorder, or did it ever manifest itself in kind of negative ways?
No, I never had an eating disorder at all. My friends and I always tried, all the new fad diets, and I think that's probably
like the hot dog diet and the grapefruit diet.
No, more like the Master Cleanse diet. That was just like the worst thing ever. It was where you only had to drink that cayenne pepper drink or something, and it was just like disgusting. And we also made up all different forms of like the Atkins diet and only eating protein and all that stuff. And so I think that's really the worst it ever got. But I mean, I never had an eating disorder at all. And
did any of your friends struggle?
Yeah, no, I definitely saw a lot of people, and it seemed like everyone in LA, every girl was having an eating disorder. And I think that's also because in part that I live in Los Angeles, where that's, you're more aware of celebrities and what they're going on, what they're wearing, and their body types and everything. But I think that seeing other people struggle with eating disorders definitely scares you away from doing anything like that, and the amount of stress that they put their bodies under, and how much they torture themselves to look a certain way and to look like what society considers beautiful. And they really can't be themselves. They're not true to who they are. And, I think it's really sad because I think that society doesn't really allow girls to be who they are. And that's what I really hope to change with this.
It is hard to swim against the tide, though. I know that, I think there's a woman at Harvard who did a study in Fiji. And the women in Fiji, nobody had an eating disorder.
I read that story.
You did?
I did, yeah.
And once they got television, they started seeing many more eating disorders, all because of the media. And I think it's almost Pavlovian. You start to want to be what the image of beauty is being projected to you.
Yeah.
So,
no, it was definitely interesting to see, the influence of Western culture into this society in Fiji, and how much they kind of cherished women who were bigger and curvier, and how that was sexy and attractive to the men there and to the other women there. And then with this, this invasion of Western culture, that they totally changed that, and it, the whole curvy women thing totally went away, and it was kind of like everyone kind of adopted eating disorders in order to look like what they were seeing on TV. So it's definitely, media has a huge impact on how young women view themselves.
how did your dad influence you? Did he, because they say fathers and the way they treat their daughters,
Yeah.
right? All these studies say that's extremely influential in terms of determining the girls who do ultimately develop an eating disorder or have real issues with their self-esteem and weight. Here your dad is this, bodybuilder. Wasn't he Mr. Universe probably at some point, known for having sort of this physical perfection. And I would think that might create some tension between him and as he sees his girls, and for that matter, son, develop.
Yeah. No, I think that a lot of people expect us to kind of have a lot of pressure to look really good and have a really fit body, because my dad was a bodybuilder, but and known for his figure, but it really didn't have any impact on me. And I don't know if that's just because I'm a girl and I look at pictures of his body and don't aspire to look like that, just because they're crazy muscular and it's not what I want to look like. But that could happen for my brothers. I don't know. But my dad was never wanted us to look or be exactly like him, and neither did my mom. They let us really be our own people and who we really wanted to be.
Didn't he once say to you, though, Katherine, like, you sure you want that second helping? I mean, it's so interesting because parents have to be so careful what they say, and the kind of the messages and even sort of the body language and visual cues they give their kids, especially daughters, I think, when it comes to this whole area.
Yeah, and I think especially mothers. I think fathers have a huge influence on their daughters and their children in general, but I think that young girls often look up to their mom and watch their mom and see how their mothers behave, whether that's to, a cashier behind the counter at a grocery store, or how they treat themselves in front of a mirror. And whether we're consciously taking that in or not, we see how our mothers are treating themselves and how they are treating their bodies, and that kind of reflects how we are going to treat our bodies. And so if you have a mother who's constantly nitpicking herself and telling her how disgusting she is and how,
or I look terrible in this
I look
dress,
awful, God, I'm getting so old, blah, 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 all of that stuff, it makes us look at ourselves in the mirror and be like, oh, maybe I do look terrible in this, maybe, and be really critical about ourselves.
Or if they talk about dieting incessantly too.
So much, and exercise, crazy amount of exercise, dieting, crazy things like that. You have a lot of moms who do that and try to kind of rub that off on their kids, and it's really, not a good thing to do.
I think it's important to, emphasize health, but if you're always like, I've got to lose 10 pounds, or I'm going to go work out extra because I ate a cookie today, that kind of, I think, is really stressful for the child. But I think we should separate that from, it's okay to kind of say, oh, let's eat this is a really healthy dish, and because it gives you all the vitamins or fiber or whatever you need. I mean, that's okay, don't you think?
Oh no, that that my mom does that all the time.
Okay, good.
She's always talking about, like, this is healthy and this is, that's great, whatever. And I think that it's important to obviously educate your kid about or your daughter about what's healthy and what's not, and showing her what are good food choices
Right,
versus
in an
bad
affirming
ones.
way,
Exactly.
not in a self-punishing way.
And not in a way where you're criticizing her for making bad food choices.
We've got a question from Facebook, which I think is interesting. Richard Mitchum, what are you laughing at? Are you surprised that I have, like, I know what Facebook is or something, Catherine?
No, not at all.
Okay, the question is, don't men and boys also have body image problems?
Yeah.
What did you find as you were researching and talking to people about this? Because there's a lot of pressure on boys these days as well.
Yeah, I think there's a huge amount of pressure on boys as well. But I think that the difference is that girls are more critical about themselves than boys are. And I think that girls focus on everything negative, whereas boys actually take the time to think the positive things about their body, and girls don't. And I think that's really the difference. And I think that, the way girls treat each other also has a huge impact on how a girl views herself, because you get those mean girls in high school or throughout your life in general that really don't make you feel great about yourself. And I think that's the difference, because boys don't do that to each other. You don't see a boy being like, oh my God, he's so weird, he's so crazy. It's a difference.
Right, or my thighs are so much
I know,
bigger than
you never
his
see
thighs.
that. You never, yeah.
But girls actually do that
That's
at a pretty
all
young
girls
age.
do. Yeah, and we're only critical about ourselves, and we're often the only ones that see our own flaws, which I really stress the importance of that in the book. And we're so critical of ourselves, and you're right, you never see boys doing that to themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
although
that's the
sometimes
difference.
I imagine you do, because
Yeah.
there are, sort of unusual cases
Yeah.
where boys are very neurotic about their appearance, but it's certainly much, much more widespread
Yeah.
among women. We have another viewer for you. This one, actually, we're going to Skype in this question, and I'm wondering if this viewer is with us. Hello, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Katie.
Oh, look! Oh my gosh! What a surprise! Catherine, look, the viewer happens to be your mom. Hi, Maria.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for inviting me. I've been watching Katherine all day on TV, so I'm glad to kind of connect with her.
Oh, good. Don't you think she's been doing an excellent job?
She's been doing an excellent job. I'm so proud of her for writing this book, Rock What You've Got, and I'm really proud of her for becoming the spokesperson for Dove, because I think their Real Beauty campaign has been incredible, and all the statistics that both of you have been talking about how girls are so anxious and negative, and I really hope that Katherine and I believe will really change all that anxiety into confidence.
Tell me about, you have two daughters, Maria, and I know this is something I'm very conscious of, because you and I are about the same age, and our daughters are of similar ages, and, we've done a lot of reading and know a lot, I think, by now in our careers about eating disorders, and I'm wondering what you have consciously done as a parent to make your daughters feel good about who they are and what they look like, and not be saddled with this sort of self-loathing that we see in so many women and girls in this country.
Well, I think it's, as you well know, in fact, we have daughters born on the same day. My daughter, Christina, and I think your daughter, Ellie, are born on the same day. And I think it's an ongoing thing, isn't it? It's like a daily basis thing. You try to, tell them that what matters is how they feel on the inside, who they are, whether they're kind, whether they're compassionate and empathetic people. I try to explain that all the time, that that's the most important thing, and that it's a lifelong journey. But as I think Katherine said earlier, when your mom says it, it doesn't really carry the weight compared to when someone else says it. And I think we can just keep in there. I've gone, like you probably, to pediatricians, and I've said, what's the right thing to say? Do I say something about food? Do I not say something? Do I stand back? Do I get involved? And I think I've made all the same mistakes that most mothers have made. But I try to say to both girls, and really to all four of our kids, that, what really matters is who you are, whether you're a good human being, whether your feet are firmly planted on the ground, whether you're a compassionate man or woman, whether you have a social view of the world, and everything else out there. As my mother always said to me, there's always going to be someone smarter, prettier than you. So make sure that you develop your brain and who you are on the inside. And I try to also tell the kids that, they're loved regardless of, how they look or how they perform. And I think also distinguishing your love from your performance and your outward appearance, I think, is a really important message that I don't think was around when you and I were growing up.
Yeah, and don't you think it's important too, Maria, to kind of you know, bust the media for what it does. Katherine and I were talking about airbrushing, or this sort of, you know, symbol of perfection in fashion magazines or in celebrity magazines. Everybody sort of has the same stick-thin body, but also the fact, you know, that they're trying to brainwash us and that we shouldn't necessarily be victimized by those images because you know, I think no wonder, as we were talking about, the women in Fiji get eating disorders once they get television. No wonder women are trying to hold themselves up to an unrealistic ideal, right?
Right, and I think that's why what Catherine's doing is so great, because it takes a lot of guts at 20, you know, to go out there and say, this is my message and this is what I went through. And I always try to say to her, you know, to be proud of, you know, the fact that you're smart and you're sexy and you're voluptuous and you know, that's an asset. That's great. That's what a woman's supposed to look like. She's not supposed to be, you know, a thin figure, because you can't, that's not healthy and you can't keep it up. And I think the more other women talk about that, being, you know, as we look at art and we look at images of women throughout the ages, the woman that is admired and is the voluptuous woman, is the woman that looks like a woman. So I think we've lost sight of that. And I think that's why it's so important that someone of Catherine's age tells girls, rock it, rock what you've got, whether you've got big boobs and a big butt or you're like curvy. I think it's great. I think girls should see all these different images and know that it's okay. And that really, you know, there's nothing more attractive, I think, than a woman who walks out and feels confident in her body, and that's from inside of her. And the more we can stress that to ourselves, Katie, at our age.
Hey!
I'm like walking around my house all day. Rock it, Maria. Rock what you got.
Rock what you still got. What about for you, Maria? I'm just curious because your wonderful mom, Eunice, was such a wisp of a thing. She was very, very thin. And of course, you know, Caroline's mom, Jackie, was very, very thin. I look at photographs of her and I think, wow, you know, even as she aged, she was quite, always trim and thin. And did you feel a lot of pressure growing up, you and Caroline, your cousin, and other girls in your extended family, that you needed to look a certain way? And if so, how did you handle that?
Well, I handled it by eating a lot. I gained a lot of weight in college. So I definitely have struggled. My mother was always really thin, and she, God rest her soul, you know, was really into that, and as was my grandmother. And they were very interested in fitness and, you know, being thin. So I think we all deal with it in different ways, but you know, I don't want to look at any pictures of myself as a freshman in college, because I got to that buffet bar and you know, brought it all, ate a lot in college. But I think, you know, there wasn't, I think when we were growing up anyway, I didn't hear the messages about healthy eating and about being fit, even though I exercised my whole life. And there's so much more out there for mothers. I think there's so much more information. So I think the more we can all kind of, you know, we're in this together as women, as girls, and I think the more we can emphasize to our daughters that really beauty comes from the inside, that being fit and healthy is the model, is the goal.
Right.
And I think that's why the book, Rock What You've Got, and the whole campaign that Dove is doing, that Katherine is a part of, to replace all that anxiety that we all have. So many girls have anxiety. I think the figures, I don't know, Katherine has them, I think 70% of girls and women feel anxiety as opposed to confidence about their bodies. And imagine if, you know, young women like Katherine and this campaign can change that anxiety to confidence, to being able to walk in that room and feel good about who you are and feel proud and feel fit and healthy. That body is going to take you through the rest of your life, as I say to my girls all the time. You want to put good gas in your car, put healthy food in your body, because that's the one thing that's going to, you know, walk you across the street and walk you through life.
I always think about, too, Maria and Katherine, you know, all the time women waste on this. I always think if we took collectively all the months and years we spend hating our bodies or trying to fix them or just being unhappy, we probably could have, cured cancer by now with all that time. It's just such a colossal waste.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the things, but what you were just saying, I think one of the things, and Katherine writes about it in the book, is the importance when kids get involved in service and doing things that are outside of themselves, that gives them confidence about who they are and takes away the focus on their body. Katherine, you were saying that a lot of the research you did that, by volunteering, whether it's with your family or doing something in school, a sport or volunteerism, makes you feel better about your body, right?
Yeah, no, I think that when you give back to your community, you feel better about yourself. And, I think different acts like that, whether, you're volunteering at a homeless shelter or doing something environmentally friendly, I think that all makes you feel good inside. And
Or
I
sports
think that,
are really
exactly,
great for that,
sport,
right?
being on a team sport, everything like that is really good and good way to feel good about your body.
And you write about, I know, Katherine, that your mom was conscious about some of the pressure she felt growing up,
Yeah.
to be thin or watch what she was eating. And she has very consciously kind of tried to redirect that kind of feedback or change what she's telling you and your sister, which is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, no, I think it's great, and I think that my mom always made sure that she was a really relatable mother for me and my sister to go to. We were always able to talk to her about anything, and her door was always open for us to tell her anything, talk to her about anything, and there was never really anything that we couldn't talk to her about or felt that she would judge us about. And so I think that that's also really good, and I talk a lot about the importance of a mother-daughter relationship in the book.
It's so important,
Yeah.
I know. And sometimes, as Maria said, should I, shouldn't I,
Yeah.
what do I do? I mean, I'm always struggling because you want so desperately to do the right thing for your daughters.
Yeah.
And I just have daughters, but of course, in your mom's case, sons as well.
Yeah.
And, you just don't, that it can be so impactful. So, have a little sympathy for us because we're really trying our best. Hey, Maria, you are so sweet to Skype in. But hey, you know me well. We used to work together. Can I ask you one unrelated question?
I was waiting for that.
So what do you think, Whitman or Brown?
I don't know. I think it's a toss-up. I think it's a tight race. I think, California is obviously a very heavily Democratic state, always has been. But I think the tide of the country certainly seems to be bucking that. I think it will be an interesting race. Certainly, she spent a huge amount of money on campaign ads out here. And as my son said this morning, as we were waiting for Katherine to come on the air, we saw a Jerry Brown commercial. He said, finally, gosh, I haven't seen any of his commercials. So I think, I know both of them. I've known Jerry Brown pretty much my whole life, and feels like that. And so I think it'll be a really interesting race as it unfolds. And I think what's going on politically around the country is fascinating. And you're so lucky to be covering it.
Oh, well, you're doing some extraordinary things with your women's conference, and I know this will be your last year for doing that. And are you looking forward to leaving the governor's mansion? I mean, is it going to be so strange for you? You had to adjust to life without TV news, and then you're going to leave a job, really, First Lady of California, that you've had for what, 2 terms, right? And
yeah.
is that going to be a big adjustment? And what are you going to be up to?
I have no idea. It is a big adjustment. And it's turned out to be, as you know, Katie, I was like, I came into this job so abruptly and in such a confused manner that it took me a while to settle into what I wanted to do with the position and how I wanted to make it a reflection of me. And it turns out to be the best thing that ever happened to me. I really have loved being First Lady of California. I love the Women's Conference, and thank you again for coming and being so great to speak at it, and to empower women to see themselves a lot like Katherine is talking about, as architects of change. I really believe that women, we live in a women's nation, and women really can change the way we look at so much of this world. So it's been an incredible opportunity. So I'm sad that it's ending. I'm scared to death, actually, because I don't know what I'm going to do. And that's the first time since college that I haven't had a job. So it's the beginning of a whole new journey for me, and I don't know where it's going, but I'm going to try to rock myself through to it.
You're going to try to continue to rock what you've got.
Yeah, I'm going to try to rock what I got and hope someone will give me a job. So there you go.
Well, something tells me you'll figure something out, Marie, and you're going to be doing other extraordinary things. Again, thank you so much. It was really fun for me to see you. I'm not sure how Katherine feels about your surprise appearance. Are you okay with this?
Yes, very much okay.
Anything you want to say to your mom before she signs off?
Bye, Mom.
Yeah.
I just want you to know, Katherine, I watched you this morning. You've done such a great job. I'm so proud of you. But as I said to you before you went, I've been proud of you since the day you were born. And I'm proud of you because you have a great heart and you're a kind and compassionate young woman. And I love you. When I saw you come on the TV this morning, I burst into tears.
Aw, that's so cute. I'm going to start crying. Okay. Well, Maria, thanks again. It's really fun to see you. I hope that I'll get to see you soon, even though you're all the way out there in California. But maybe sometime when you're in New York, we can get together and, talk about everything.
All the mistakes we made as mothers.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That'll be very productive. Maria, thanks again.
Bye, Mommy.
Goodbye, honey. See ya.
Oh, that's so sweet. You were very, very complimentary of both your mom. She's so great, by the way,
So
isn't
funny.
she? I love her, and your dad, and the things they did for you along the way. I mean, what other things? Obviously, your mom just said she would reinforce positive things and who you were on the inside and the kind of person you were and the values you have and your character. But that only works so much when it's a mom to a daughter. What other things do you think were helpful for you from both your parents growing up?
Well, I think that, like I said, I think that both my parents were really amazing people for me to talk to, and they were always they weren't judgmental at all when we would come and talk to them about anything, and I think that's something that's really amazing to have with all of my siblings. And we're a really close-knit family, so whether it's me talking to my brother or sister, or me talking to my dad or my mom, I think that we can all really talk to each other about anything. And I think that my parents really helped create that for us and create a life for us where doors were always open for us to talk to each other about anything. And I think that also had a lot to do with having a huge family, because I have that.
Which is fun.
Yeah, no, it's really, really fun. And so I think my parents always did that. And I think my parents also always really told me to be who I am and to stay true to myself and to never try to be someone that I'm not. And I think that that's also really important for parents to reinforce to their kids, because I think that so many kids get lost along the way of growing up and kind of feel like they should be someone that they're not. And that's where you get into a lot of trouble and doubt yourself.
You, just real quickly, you offer some very specific things, which I think is important for girls who may be struggling with these issues. And you talk about how they handle certain things, like getting teased about your body in school. What should girls do if someone says, hey, you look stupid in that dress, or hey, big butt, or whatever, jerky boys, or even mean girls might say to make them feel bad?
Girls are really mean to each other, especially in high school, and they're
middle school.
Awful. Yeah, middle school and high school compared to elementary school is a huge change, and I think that girls are just awful to each other. But I talk about an incident when I got teased when I was in school, and a boy called me Beaver Buck Tooth, and I was really upset about it. And I came home to my mom, and I was really self-conscious about my teeth, and I was like trying to. No, she didn't. She was like wanting to, but she didn't. But I was really self-conscious of like smiling even because he made fun of my teeth, and my mom just told me, that's not about you. That's about something else that he's dealing with, and he's taking it out on you. And I think that's really important for girls in any situation to know that when somebody makes fun of you, them making fun of you, that's not about you at all, and they're taking it out on you, which is unfortunate.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate they're taking out on you, obviously, but that's about them, and they're dealing with something that's obviously a bigger deal, and that's the only way they can vent and get it out, and so not about you.
You also talk, give some advice about girls becoming sexually active.
Yeah.
Because I wonder if I'm assuming, in fact, I probably know this, that girls become sexually active because they want to be loved. They don't feel enough self-love, if you will. And some of them sort of turn to that as a way to reinforce their self-worth, right. And so what advice do you have for girls along those lines?
I talk about that in the book, and that's just to not do anything unless you're ready and that you want to do it. And, I have a lot of advice in there also for boys and mothers about how to educate your boys about how to treat a woman, how to be nice to a girl. And I think that's really important, because if you're in a relationship where you feel like you're being pressured to do something that your gut tells you not to do, you really need to listen to your gut. And my parents always told me to trust my gut and listen to my gut about things in general. But I think that especially for young girls, that often they're pressured into doing things like that they don't want to do, and they go ahead with it and wind up feeling badly about themselves, and it has the opposite effect. So I would tell them to just really listen to your gut, and if you feel ready to do that, then go ahead and do it.
And there's a fine line between, I think, being healthy and having a healthy lifestyle.
Exactly.
And being obsessed
Yeah.
with food, with diet and exercise. How do you personally, Katherine, kind of balance those things?
I try to work out almost every day, just because mentally for me, it's, the hour and a half in my day where I don't have to answer my phone, I don't have to do email, I don't have to do schoolwork, I can just kind of be with my own thoughts. So for me, it's really a psychological thing, but I think that as much physical activity as you can get in is really important, just because it's not only good for your body, but it's really good for your mind. And, I think when it comes to eating food, I think that you just have to make those choices for yourself and know what's healthy and what's not. But I definitely don't, I don't like diets. I talk about it, it's like my least favorite word is diet. Because I think that when you do diets and things like that, you restrict yourself from eating things, and then, when you're done
Then
with
you
that,
lose your mind.
Exactly, and you lose your mind and you just want to binge on everything. So I think that you have to really make eating healthy a lifestyle for yourself, and exercising.
But you also don't have to punish yourself.
Exactly.
If you eat a cookie, you
Yeah.
don't have to feel like you've committed first-degree
crime.
murder
Yeah,
or
exactly.
something like that. You have to. I think forgiveness is an important part of it too, and you have to be a little more relaxed, because, as you said, if you're so rigid, then I think you just set yourself up for failure. And then if you fail, you're full of self-loathing, and then it
Yeah.
becomes kind of a vicious cycle.
Exactly. I think
Do you think I have some of these issues?
I think it's really important to just have fun with everything and have fun in your life. And if that involves, having a cookie here and there, or having frozen yogurt, I love frozen yogurt.
Or
so
God
that's
forbid,
like,
an ice cream cone? Come on.
I know, God forbid. But I think that's really important. Just have fun, relax, don't take everything so seriously.
And what are you going to do now that you've written a book at age 20? I mean,
know.
sort of, what's your next goal in life? To graduate from college,
Yeah.
right? What do you think you might want to do?
I had an amazing time writing this book, so I really like doing that. And I'm kind of interested in the TV area.
Oh, seriously?
Seriously.
Okay. Well, that's great.
Yeah.
That's a nice compliment to your mom, because
know.
neither of my daughters
No, I used
is
to not
interested
want to do
at
that
all.
at all. Yeah, so I kind of have come to it. But yeah, whatever really comes my way, I'm willing to do.
Well, it's so nice to spend time with you. And the book is called Rock What You've Got, Secrets to Loving Your Inner and Outer Beauty, from someone who's been there and back. Anyway, thanks so much, Katherine. This was a lot of fun. I
you.
hope you're not mad that we surprised you.
Oh,
Are
I
you?
loved it. No,
It
not
was
at
cute.
all.
Your
I
mom's
love
funny.
it.
She's like, nobody looks good on Skype. It is. The picture's a little rough, isn't it?
It's a little foggy, but it's fine.
Yeah, she is so proud of you. So
thank you.
I am too.
Oh,
So
thank you.
congratulations. And you can follow me, by the way, on Twitter. My handle is @Couric. See, I know about Facebook, Twitter. Come on. You can see all the episodes of this web show anytime at cbsnews.com. And now stay tuned for a message from our sponsor, Dove.